5 biggest decisions only a pope can make. What if one person on earth had the power to make decisions that could shape the beliefs and future of over 1 billion people? That person is the Pope, the leader of the Roman Catholic Church. But the Pope isn't just a religious figure in white robes. He holds unique powers that no bishop, cardinal, or religious council can exercise alone. So, what are these powerful decisions? Let's break them down. 1. Proclaiming an ex cathedra dogma. Imagine having the power to say something, and from that moment on, over 1 billion people around the world have to accept it as part of their faith forever. That's what happens when the Pope speaks ex cathedra. This Latin phrase means from the chair, referring to the chair of St. Peter, the very first Pope. Speaking ex cathedra is not just giving a speech or sharing an opinion, it's the most serious and powerful type of teaching in the Catholic Church, and only the Pope can do it. This kind of decision is incredibly rare. In fact, in the last 200 years, it's only happened twice. The first time was in 1854, when Pope Pius IX declared that Mary, the mother of Jesus, was born without original sin. This teaching is called the Immaculate Conception. The second time was in 1950, when Pope Pius XII declared that Mary was taken up into heaven body and soul after her life on earth. This is known as the Assumption of Mary. Both of these became permanent Catholic beliefs, and they can't be changed. Now, it's important to understand that the Pope doesn't just randomly decide to speak ex cathedra. He doesn't wake up one morning and say, "I feel like adding a new belief to the Church today." No way. These decisions come after many years, sometimes even decades of deep study, prayer, and discussion with bishops, priests, and theologians from all over the world. The Pope reads reports, asks for opinions, and listens to feedback before even thinking about making a decision. One of the biggest steps before making an ex cathedra statement is holding consultations with bishops and Catholic experts. This means the Pope sends out surveys and letters to bishops from different countries to see what they think. He listens to debates, reads essays, and gathers the opinions of people who have studied church teachings for years. It's a global conversation that happens quietly in the background, often for many years. But still, even after all that, only the Pope has the final say. And when he finally speaks ex cathedra, it becomes a part of the Church forever. This is not like a normal homily, the short talk a priest gives during Mass, or even like a papal encyclical, a special letter written by the Pope to the whole Church. Homilies and encyclicals can teach and guide people, but they are not considered infallible. That means they can be discussed, questioned, and even changed. But when the Pope speaks ex cathedra, it is believed to be without error. It's infallible. Infallibility is a big word, but it just means the Pope is protected from making mistakes in certain kinds of teachings, specifically when he is officially teaching about faith and morals for the whole Church. This doesn't mean the Pope is perfect, or that he can never be wrong in other things. He can make mistakes in other areas just like any person. But when he speaks ex cathedra, Catholics believe the Holy Spirit is guiding him so that he won't teach something false. This belief in papal infallibility was clearly defined at the First Vatican Council in 1869-1870. The church leaders gathered there agreed that the Pope has this special ability, but only when he meets certain conditions. He must be speaking as the official head of the Church about a matter of faith or morals, and with the intention of binding the whole Church to that teaching. Not just sharing advice, not giving a personal opinion, but making an official and permanent teaching. That's what makes it ex cathedra. Sometimes, people think the Pope is speaking ex cathedra when he's not. For example, if the Pope gives a speech about climate change or peace, or writes a letter about caring for the environment, people might say, "Oh, the Pope declared it, so it must be infallible." But that's not true. Those are important teachings, yes, but they are not considered ex cathedra because they don't meet all the conditions. They are not final, unchangeable declarations about faith or morals meant for the entire Church. So how did people react when Pope Pius XII declared the Assumption of Mary in 1950? Well, it was a big moment. Millions of Catholics around the world were already celebrating Mary's Assumption for centuries. They believed it in their hearts, even if it hadn't been made an official dogma yet. So when the Pope finally made the declaration, There was a lot of joy and excitement. Churches held special masses. Bells rang. People saw it as a moment of unity, a time when the Pope confirmed something that many had always believed to be true. In many places, this new dogma became part of the culture. Statues of Mary being assumed into heaven were made. Churches were renamed in her honor. People sang hymns and prayed special rosaries. It helped strengthen the connection between Catholics and their beliefs, especially about the importance of Mary in the Church. It was a teaching that touched people's hearts, not just their minds. Declaring an ex cathedra dogma is not about power. It's about trust. Catholics believe that the Pope is the successor of Saint Peter, the first leader of the early Church. When Jesus said to Peter, "You are the rock, and on this rock I will build my church," Catholics believe that Jesus gave Peter, and all popes after him, a special responsibility. That responsibility includes leading the Church, teaching the truth, and keeping the faith strong. The Pope doesn't use this power often, because he understands how serious it is. He knows that when he speaks ex cathedra, his words will last forever. They become part of the Church's foundation. That's why there is so much prayer, thinking, and listening before making such a decision. It's not something you can undo. Once it's said, it's done. So when the Pope finally does speak ex cathedra, it becomes a powerful moment in history. It brings Catholics together. It strengthens their faith. And it reminds the world that even in today's fast-changing times, some truths are meant to last forever. In the end, ex cathedra is not just about a single sentence or a single teaching. It's about the entire journey behind it, the years of questions, prayers, and hopes. And when the Pope speaks those words, it's like the voice of the Church finally becoming clear for everyone to hear. A voice that comes not just from one man, but from a deep and sacred tradition that has lasted for over 2,000 years. 2. Creating cardinals. Another powerful decision that only the Pope can make is choosing new cardinals. These are not just high-ranking church leaders, they are the people who will help lead the Church for years to come. And most importantly, they are the ones who will vote to choose the next Pope when the time comes. That means when a Pope picks a new cardinal, he's not just giving someone a title. He's shaping the future of the Catholic Church. Let's start with the basics. Cardinals are like the Pope's closest team. They are usually bishops, but not always. When someone becomes a cardinal, they get a special title, a red hat, and a ring. The red hat is shaped like a flat, wide cap and is called a biretta. It's not just a fashion item, it symbolizes that the cardinal is ready to stand up for the faith, even if it costs them their life. That's how serious this job is. The ring is a sign of their loyalty to the Church and to the Pope. There are 3 types or ranks of cardinals: cardinal bishops, cardinal priests, and cardinal deacons. Cardinal bishops are the highest ranking, and usually have been cardinals for a long time or have special responsibilities in the Vatican. Cardinal priests are often bishops of large cities around the world. Cardinal deacons usually work inside the Vatican, or have roles in helping with church administration. These titles don't mean one cardinal is better than another, it just helps organize their roles and duties. When a pope decides to make someone a cardinal, there's a special event called a consistory. This is a formal ceremony held at the Vatican. All the current cardinals are invited, and it takes place inside St. Peter's Basilica, the largest church in the world. The new cardinals walk up to the Pope one by one. He gives them their red hat and their ring, and says some special words. The Pope also assigns them a church in Rome, even if they don't live there. This is a symbolic gesture to show they are now part of the Church of Rome, which is where the Pope leads from. After they are made cardinals, these men become part of a group called the College of Cardinals. Think of this as a team or council. They advise the Pope, help guide the Church, and most importantly, elect the next Pope. When a Pope dies or steps down, the cardinals under the age of 80 go into a special meeting called a conclave. This is where they vote for the next Pope. The conclave is very secret and serious. The cardinals stay inside the Vatican and are not allowed to communicate with the outside world until a new Pope is chosen. They vote by writing names on small slips of paper. After each vote, the ballots are burned. If no one has enough votes yet, the smoke from the chimney is black. When someone finally gets enough votes, the ballots are burned with special chemicals that make the smoke turn white. That's how the world knows a new pope has been elected. Because of this, choosing cardinals is a big deal. The pope is not just choosing helpers. He is choosing the people who will someday pick his replacement. And that's why the pope takes this decision very seriously. He doesn't pick people just because they are popular or come from powerful places. He looks for people who are faithful, wise, and ready to serve the church. In the past, most cardinals were from Europe, especially Italy. But modern popes, like Pope Francis, are changing that. They want the church's leadership to reflect all the different cultures and countries that are part of the Catholic Church today. So Pope Francis has made cardinals from places like Tonga, Mongolia, and South Sudan, places that never had a cardinal before. This is important because it sends a strong message. The Catholic Church is not just European. It's a global church. There are Catholics on every continent, and they all deserve to have a voice. By choosing cardinals from faraway or smaller countries, the Pope is saying that every part of the church matters. No one is too small or too distant to be included. Each cardinal brings something unique to the church. Some are great teachers. Some are known for helping the poor. Others are strong in prayer or experienced in solving tough problems. When the Pope picks them, he's showing what values he thinks are most important. For example, if he picks someone who works with refugees, it shows he cares about justice and compassion. If he picks someone focused on education, it shows he values learning and truth. These cardinals also become leaders in their own countries. People look up to them. They speak for the Pope in many ways. They help explain church teachings, settle disputes, and support local bishops. When they come together as the College of Cardinals, they form a kind of leadership team that can help guide the church through challenges. Even though the Pope is the only one who can make someone a cardinal, he doesn't make the decision alone. He prays a lot. He reads reports. He listens to bishops and others who know the person being considered. But in the end, it's his choice. He signs the official document and announces the names. After the consistory, the new cardinals go back to their countries, but now with new responsibilities. They stay connected to the Vatican and are called back for big meetings or important decisions. Some may eventually return to Rome to work more closely with the Pope, but many continue their work at home, now with more influence and authority. So, becoming a cardinal is not just an award. It's a mission. It's a way for the Pope to strengthen the Church all over the world. It shows that leadership is not just about power, it's about service, sacrifice, and being a voice for others. The red hat isn't just for show. It stands for courage. It means the cardinal is ready to protect the faith, even in hard times. The ring shows their commitment. And their new title shows that the Pope trusts them to help lead the Church. In today's world, where things can change so fast, the Pope's decision to create cardinals is one way he keeps the Church steady and focused. By choosing the right people, he builds a team that can face the future with hope, wisdom, and faith. And through this, the Church continues to grow not just in size, but in strength, diversity, and unity. Creating cardinals may seem like a quiet act. There are no big parades or world headlines. But in the world of the Catholic Church, it's one of the most powerful moves the Pope can make. It's a decision that reaches into every corner of the globe and prepares the Church for the years to come. 3. Declaring someone a saint. Only the Pope has the final say when it comes to declaring someone a saint. Becoming a saint in the Catholic Church is a really big deal. It means that the Church believes a person is in heaven with God and can pray for people still living on earth. Only the Pope has the power to officially declare someone a saint. This process is called canonization, and it's one of the most joyful and inspiring things the Pope can do. But canonization doesn't happen overnight. It's a long and careful journey that can take many years, even centuries. It starts when people who knew the person or were inspired by their life ask the Church to take a closer look. These people are usually from the local church where the person lived and worked. They believe this person lived a holy life and should be recognized for it. The first official step is to give the person the title, Servant of God. This means the Church has agreed to start looking into their life. A team of experts begins studying everything about them. They look at the person's writings, how they treated others, and whether they lived in a way that shows deep love for God and people. It's not just about being nice, it's about living in a way that shows strong faith, kindness, sacrifice, and courage. If the Church finds that this person lived a life of heroic virtue, meaning they went above and beyond in doing good, they get the next title, Venerable. This is a very special moment. It shows that the Church officially sees this person as someone worth looking up to. But there's still more to do before they can be called a saint. The next step is called beatification, and it's when the person is given the title blessed. But to reach this step, the Church needs proof of a miracle. A miracle is something amazing that science can't explain, and it has to be connected to prayers made to that person. For example, if someone prayed to the venerable person and then was suddenly healed from a serious illness, the Church will investigate to see if it was a true miracle. Doctors and scientists are called in to check if the healing has a natural explanation. If no explanation is found, and if it seems clear that the prayer was answered through this person's intercession, the Pope can approve the miracle. Once the miracle is confirmed, the Pope can declare the person blessed, and they can be honored in a special way by people in certain parts of the world, like their home country or community. But to be officially recognized as a saint for the whole Church, one more miracle is usually needed. After a second miracle is confirmed, the Pope can move forward with canonization, the final step. During the canonization ceremony, the Pope speaks to the whole world. This often happens in St. Peter's Square at the Vatican. Thousands of people gather to watch and celebrate. The Pope reads the person's name and says special words to declare that this person is now a saint. From that moment on, Catholics all over the world can pray to them and ask for their help. Their name is added to the official list of saints, and they are remembered in prayers and celebrations forever. One of the most famous canonizations in recent history was that of Mother Teresa in 2016. She was known around the world for her work with the poor and sick in India. Even though she was a tiny woman with a soft voice, she had a huge impact on people's lives. After her death in 1997, many people began calling her a saint. The Church started the process, and after 2 miracles were confirmed, a woman healed from a tumor and another from a brain infection, Pope Francis declared her a saint. The event was watched by millions of people around the world, and many celebrated her kindness and faith. Miracles are really important in this process. They show that the person still has a connection to people on earth, even after death. Catholics believe that saints are in heaven and can hear our prayers. So when a miracle happens through their intercession, it's like a sign from God saying, "Yes, this person is with me." It gives people hope and helps them believe that God is still active in our lives. Saints are not just people from the past. They are role models for today. Each saint is different. Some were priests, some were nuns, and some were regular moms and dads. There are saints who were teachers, doctors, kings, and even soldiers. They come from all parts of the world and lived in many different times. But they all have one thing in common: they lived their lives with deep love and trust in God. After someone becomes a saint, they often become the patron of something. This means they are considered special protectors or helpers for certain causes or groups. For example, Saint Francis of Assisi is the patron saint of animals and the environment. Saint Joseph is the patron saint of workers and fathers. Saint Cecilia is the patron of musicians. People pray to these saints when they need help, guidance, or strength in those areas of life. When someone from a local church or country becomes a saint, it has a huge impact on that community. People feel proud and inspired. Schools and churches might be named after the new saint. Statues are made, songs are written, and special prayers are created. It brings people closer to their faith and reminds them that holiness is possible for anyone. It's not just something for ancient times or perfect people, it's something real and alive today. The Pope takes this job very seriously. He doesn't make the decision alone. A group of experts, called the Congregation for the Causes of Saints, help study the person's life and miracles. They work carefully, asking lots of questions and reviewing tons of information. But in the end, only the Pope can say the final yes. Only he can make the official declaration. Declaring someone a saint is a beautiful moment. It brings people together. It shows the world that even in hard times, people can live with love, courage, and faith. It reminds us that we are not alone. We have holy friends in heaven who care about us and want to help us. That's why Catholics don't just remember saints, they talk to them, pray to them, and try to follow their example. So, when the Pope declares a new saint, it's not just a church event. It's a worldwide celebration. Bells ring, people cheer, flags wave, and in the hearts of millions, a new light shines, a light that will guide others to live better, love more, and trust God in their own journey. 4. Calling an ecumenical council. The Pope is the only person who can call an ecumenical council. An ecumenical council is one of the most important events that can happen in the Catholic Church. It's a huge meeting where bishops from all around the world come together to talk, pray, and make big decisions about the future of the Church. But here's the thing, only the Pope can call this meeting. Nobody else has the authority to start it. It's a massive responsibility, and it shows just how powerful and trusted the Pope really is. These councils don't happen very often. In over 2,000 years of church history, there have only been 21 ecumenical councils. Each one has helped shape what Catholics believe and how they live their faith. They've dealt with tough questions, major challenges, and new situations that the Church had to face. And every time, it started with the Pope saying, "Let's gather the Church." Let's take a quick look at some of the most important councils in history. The First Council of Nicaea 325 AD. This was the first ecumenical council. It was called by Emperor Constantine and approved by Pope Sylvester I. The council helped the Church agree on the nature of Jesus Christ, that he is truly God and not just a man. It also gave us the Nicene Creed, which many Christians still say today during Mass. The Council of Trent 1545–1563. This was a huge council that happened during the time of the Protestant Reformation. Many people were leaving the Catholic Church and starting new ones. The Pope called this council to respond. It helped define Catholic beliefs more clearly and made reforms to fix problems in the Church. Vatican I 1869–1870. This council dealt with modern problems and new ideas that were coming up. It was at Vatican I that the Church officially defined the idea of papal infallibility, that the Pope cannot make an error when teaching officially on faith and morals. Vatican Roman II 1962–1965. This is the most recent council. It was started by Pope John Roman XXIII and continued by Pope Paul Roman VI. Vatican Roman II made big changes to how the Church works. For example, it allowed the Mass to be said in local languages instead of Latin, encouraged Catholics to talk more with people of other religions, and gave more responsibility to regular people in the Church. So how does a council actually work? First, the Pope has to call it. That means he invites bishops from all over the world to come to a certain place, usually the Vatican. These bishops leave their dioceses and travel to Rome, where they meet with each other and with experts. They bring questions, concerns, and experiences from their countries. Before the council even begins, there's a lot of preparation. Committees are formed to decide what topics should be talked about. Documents are written to explain the problems and propose possible answers. These documents are studied and discussed in smaller groups before the big meetings start. During the council itself, there are long days of meetings. Bishops speak at the microphone, share their opinions, and debate with each other. It's not always peaceful, sometimes people strongly disagree. But that's part of the process. Everyone is trying to find the truth and decide what's best for the Church. There are also votes. After discussing a topic, the bishops vote on whether they agree with the document or teaching. If enough bishops agree, the final document is sent to the Pope. But it's not official yet. The Pope has the last word. He reads the document, makes sure everything is correct, and then gives his approval. Only then does it become part of the Church's teaching. The topics discussed at councils are often huge. In the early councils, they talked about who Jesus really is, fully God and fully man. At Trent, they answered questions about the sacraments and how people are saved. At Vatican Roman II, they talked about how the Church should speak to the modern world. They also discussed the role of women, the rights of people in different religions, and how priests should be trained. These decisions don't just stay on paper. They affect how people live their faith. For example, after Vatican Roman II allowed the Mass to be said in local languages, churches all over the world started using English, Spanish, Swahili, and many others. People could finally understand the prayers more deeply. It helped them feel more connected to the Mass. The councils also changed how churches looked. Altars were moved closer to the people, priests started facing the congregation instead of turning their backs, and new kinds of music were used. The church became more welcoming and open, especially to young people and those who felt left out before. But even after the council ends, the work isn't done. The Pope plays a big role in helping the church put the decisions into action. He writes letters to explain the changes, sends people to help teach them, and watches how things are going. Sometimes, the changes take years to fully happen. But with the Pope leading, the Church can move forward with unity. Calling an ecumenical council is not easy. It takes courage, faith, and vision. The Pope has to be willing to listen, to lead, and to trust that the Holy Spirit is guiding the Church. It's one of the biggest responsibilities a Pope has, and he doesn't take it lightly. Even though we don't have councils very often, their effects last for generations. They shape what we believe, how we worship, and how we see the world. And it all starts with one man, the Pope, taking a bold step and inviting the whole Church to come together. So when the Pope calls an ecumenical council, he's not just organizing a meeting. He's opening the door for transformation. He's saying that the Church is alive, paying attention, and ready to face the future. It's a reminder that, through unity and faith, the Church can grow stronger, even in the most challenging times. 5. Changing the Catechism and canon law. One of the most powerful things the Pope can do is change the Catechism and canon law. These two things are like the heart and the backbone of the Catholic Church. The Catechism is a big book that explains everything Catholics believe. It talks about God, Jesus, prayer, sacraments, morality, and how to live a good life. Canon law, on the other hand, is like the Church's rulebook. It lays out all the legal guidelines about how the Church should be run, from how priests are trained to what happens when someone breaks Church rules. Together, they help guide the everyday lives of over 1 billion Catholics around the world. But here's the thing. Only the Pope has the power to officially change these. Even though he works with experts and listens to advice from bishops and theologians, he is the one who gives the final approval. Without his signature, no change can be made official. Let's look at the history first. Canon law has existed in different forms for centuries, but it was first officially gathered into a single book in 1917. This was called the 1917 Code of Canon Law, and it helped bring order and consistency to Church rules. Later, in 1983, Pope John Paul II released a new version of canon law. It updated and modernized the rules to fit better with the world after the Second Vatican Council. This version is still used today, although it has been updated several times. The Catechism also has a long history. Before there was an official worldwide version, many local churches had their own catechisms. But in 1992, Pope John Paul II released the first universal catechism of the Catholic Church. This book is used in schools, churches, seminaries, and homes. It helps Catholics understand their faith better and teaches everything in one place, from prayer and sacraments to commandments and teachings on modern issues. When the Pope changes something in the Catechism or canon law, it's a big deal. These changes affect millions of people: priests, teachers, parents, students, and ordinary Catholics. For example, when Pope Francis changed the Church's teaching on the death penalty, it sent a strong message. He said that the death penalty is no longer acceptable in today's world. This update was added to the Catechism, and now it's what Catholics are taught and believe. The change made headlines around the world and showed how the Church continues to grow and respond to new understandings. The Pope doesn't make these decisions alone or on a whim. There's a long and careful process. First, The issue is studied by experts. These experts are often part of Vatican offices like the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith or the Pontifical Councils. They write drafts, do research, and consult with bishops from around the world. Then they submit reports to the Pope. He reviews everything, prays for guidance, and sometimes asks for more information. When he's finally ready, he signs the new law or teaching, and it becomes official. Sometimes, these changes are small and technical, like clarifying how marriage paperwork should be handled or adjusting rules about who can witness a baptism. But even small changes can make a big difference in local parishes. They can help solve problems, make things clearer, or protect people better. There have also been changes about how priests and bishops are held accountable. In recent years, the Church has updated canon law to make sure leaders who fail to protect people, especially children, are dealt with more seriously. New rules make it easier to remove bishops who ignore abuse, and they allow more transparency in handling these cases. These updates are part of the Church's efforts to heal, improve, and rebuild trust. Other examples of updates include changes to how confessions are done in special situations, updates about mixed marriages between Catholics and non-Catholics, and clearer rules about church finances. Each change may sound small, but they help make the Church's mission more effective and fair. When the Pope announces a big change, people react in different ways. Some are happy and feel that the Church is moving in the right direction. They see it as a sign of progress and courage. Others may feel confused or unsure, especially if the change affects something they've believed or done for a long time. That's why the Church works hard to explain these updates through letters, press releases, and teachings from bishops and priests. For example, when Pope Francis updated the Catechism about the death penalty, some people celebrated. They said it matched better with the Church's belief in the dignity of all human life. Others were surprised or concerned, especially in places where the death penalty is still legal. But over time, as the new teaching was explained and discussed, more people understood the Pope's message. What's powerful is that these changes are not just about rules. They are about values. When the Pope updates the Catechism or canon law, he's helping the Church speak more clearly to today's world. He's saying, "This is how we live our faith right now." It shows that the Church is alive, not frozen in the past, but growing, thinking, and staying close to real people's lives. One of the biggest challenges the Pope faces when changing church law or teaching is balancing tradition with the needs of today. The Church has a long history, and it's important to respect that. But the world changes fast: technology, family life, politics, and culture. People have new questions and face new problems. The Pope's job is to make sure the Church stays true to its core beliefs, while also helping people live those beliefs in today's world. That's why the Pope listens to so many voices. He hears from bishops in Africa, Asia, Europe, and the Americas. He listens to women, young people, the poor, and experts in science and medicine. All of this helps him understand what the Church needs. Then, with prayer and reflection, he makes the final call. In many ways, changing the Catechism or canon law is one of the Pope's most thoughtful decisions. It's not dramatic like declaring a saint or calling a big council. But it's deep. It affects how people learn about their faith, how they pray, how they raise their kids, and how they live every day. It's kind of like updating a map. The old map might have been great for its time, but now there are new roads, new dangers, and new places to go. The Pope helps redraw the map so people can follow the same path of faith, but with clearer directions for today. In the end, when the Pope changes the Catechism or canon law, he's doing something sacred. He's leading the Church with care, wisdom, and love. He's helping Catholics all over the world stay strong in their faith, stay connected to the truth, and stay hopeful about the future. Now that we've looked at all the big decisions the Pope can make, you might be wondering, what's his life actually like day to day? Does he sit on a golden throne all day or live like a regular person? Let's go behind the scenes and see what a normal day in the life of the Pope looks like. Most people think the Pope lives like a king, but his life is actually pretty simple and full of work. The Pope lives in a place called the Apostolic Palace in Vatican City. It's not a normal palace with parties and gold everywhere, it's more like a working office and home combined. The Pope wakes up early, usually around 5:30 or 6 am. He starts his day with prayer and personal reflection. He spends this quiet time talking to God and preparing himself for the long day ahead. After that, he celebrates Mass, often with a small group of people, sometimes visiting priests or Vatican workers. Then comes breakfast, which is usually light. The rest of his morning is filled with meetings. He meets with bishops, cardinals, ambassadors, and sometimes regular people who have something important to share. He listens to their stories, gives advice, and makes decisions about church matters. The Pope also has to read a lot of letters, reports, and updates from all over the world. He stays informed about everything happening in the church, from tiny villages to big cities. Sometimes he records video messages, writes speeches, or prepares for public events. On some days, he blesses people in St. Peter's Square or speaks to crowds from his window. In the afternoon, he might have more meetings or write important letters. He also needs time to pray again and reflect on what he's doing. At night, he eats a simple dinner and may spend some quiet time reading or resting. Even though he has helpers, the Pope makes a lot of his own choices. He's busy, but he doesn't live a fancy life. He's a spiritual father for more than 1 billion Catholics, and he takes that job seriously every single day. After seeing all the powerful things a Pope can do, it's easy to think he can do just about anything. But that's not true. The Pope has limits too. In fact, there are some really important things he's not allowed to change no matter what. Let's clear up some of the biggest myths. A lot of people think the Pope can do anything he wants. But that's not true. There are actually limits to his power. He can't just change whatever he feels like. One big myth is that the Pope can change church teachings about everything. But the truth is, the Pope cannot change core doctrines of the Catholic faith. For example, he cannot decide that Jesus wasn't the Son of God or that the Bible is no longer true. Those are foundational beliefs that come from Scripture and tradition. They can't be altered. The Pope also can't erase the 10 Commandments or cancel out the sacraments. He can't remove books from the Bible or say that Mass no longer matters. His job is to protect and explain the faith, not change its core. He also can't break his own moral rules. If he does something wrong, he can be criticized or asked to step down, just like other leaders. Another thing the Pope can't do is force people to believe. He can teach, guide, and inspire, but he can't control people's faith. Everyone has free will. The Pope can also not change what Jesus said or rewrite the Church's basic moral teachings. Even when he speaks with full authority, it has to be in line with what the Church already believes. So while the Pope has a very special role, he doesn't have unlimited power. He is a servant of the truth, not the master of it. And finally, what happens when a Pope is gone? Who picks the next one? It's not like voting for school captain or holding an election with posters. The way a new Pope is chosen is full of mystery, tradition, and silence. Here's how it all goes down inside the walls of the Vatican. When a Pope dies or resigns, the Church has to choose a new one. This is called a papal election, and it's one of the most mysterious and dramatic events in the Catholic world. The process takes place in the Sistine Chapel in Vatican City. The people who vote are the cardinals under the age of 80. This group is called the College of Cardinals. They come from all over the world. First, the cardinals gather for a few days of meetings. They talk about what the Church needs and what kind of leader they're looking for. Then they enter the Sistine Chapel and the doors are locked. No one is allowed in or out. No phones, no internet. It's total silence from the outside world. This part is called the conclave. Inside the chapel, the cardinals pray and vote. They write the name of the person they want on a small slip of paper and place it in a chalice. After each round of voting, the papers are burned. If no one gets enough votes, the smoke that comes out of the chimney is black. But when someone finally receives 2/3 of the votes, white smoke is released. That's how the world knows a new Pope has been chosen. Once a Pope is elected, he's asked if he accepts. If he says yes, he picks a new name for himself. Then he changes into white robes and walks out onto the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica. A cardinal announces to the crowd, "Habemus Papam," which means, "We have a pope." People from all over the world cheer, and the new pope gives his first blessing. The whole process is old, secret, and full of tradition. It's not just about picking a leader, it's about trusting that the Holy Spirit is guiding the Church. That's why Catholics wait with so much hope and excitement. They believe that the right man, chosen with prayer, will lead the Church into the future with faith and courage. If you learned something new today, give this video a like and share it with someone who might enjoy it too. And don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the untold stories of history, religion, and powerful people who changed the world.